Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 478 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, we've had a ton of doctors, athletes, speakers, professors, and entertainers on our show over the years. This is the first time that we are going to have a sitting judge on the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. So I am super excited to bring out our next guest today. Judge Derwin L. Webb is the first African-American male family court judge in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. A first-generation attorney, Webb was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, but later moved to Louisville, where he lived for more than 25 years. A former standout basketball player at the University of Louisville for Hall of Fame basketball coach Denny Crum, Webb was a captain his senior year and earned the respect of his peers, both on and off the basketball court. As an undergraduate, he was elected as a senator in the Student Government Association. In this role, he represented the interests of the student population and discovered the importance of public service. He joined Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. After receiving his BS in political science, he attended the Brandeis School of Law at the University of Louisville. Upon graduation, he began his legal career with the prestigious law firm Stites Harbison, where he learned all aspects of business and corporate law. He then returned to his alma mater to work as an assistant athletic director, where he was supported by the athletic department in areas of compliance, academics, and diversity. He was appointed by the president to serve on the university's Commission on Diversity and Racial Equality, the president's chief policy advisor on issues of diversity. He also served on numerous nonprofit boards dedicated to improving the lives of individuals within the Kentuckiana region. This work earned Derwin the Business First 40 Under 40 Award for Outstanding Louisville Young Professionals. Welcome to the show, the Honorable Judge Derwin Webb.
Michael, it's a pleasure to be here today.
Hey, the honor is all mine. I got to tell you, I'm just going to keep it straight today. I am just super excited to have you on the show and just to talk a little bit more about your background. I think our listeners are going to be fascinated by your story. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so let's talk a little bit about your upbringing because you grew up in a segregated community as a kid. And while many people know Brown versus Board of the Education, that talked about desegregation of schools back in 1954, but in reality, it didn't make its way to Indianapolis until 30 years later when you're already going to sixth grade. So now you're being bused 30 minutes away for school and interacting with people who didn't look like you. What was that like for you as a kid?
I'll be honest with you. It was a traumatic situation for me. Being in the segregated community that I grew up in was great. I knew the people that went to school with. We could walk to school together. We grew up together. We did everything together. So when that decision came down and we were actually forced to be bused, it was traumatic for me for a couple of different reasons. One, because I was probably one of the only kids in our region or in that neighborhood that got put into the AP program. So once I got to school, I got separated from my neighborhood kids and went to school with people that didn't look like me at all. So imagine riding to school with kids that are Black, getting to school, saying goodbye, and basically going to all AP classes and not seeing them again until you actually left. So it was a tough experience for me because I wasn't Black enough with Black kids, and I wasn't white. So I was kind of this kid that was by himself. So it took me a while to kind of adjust to the surroundings and circumstances, but it made me a better person, and I appreciate the experience after a while.
Yeah. You also had some painful memories as a kid, including when you were 15 years old, finding out that your friend died from an accidental shooting. And then a few years later, a 16-year-old kid that accidentally shot him was now killed by someone else.
Right.
So give us the answer to gun violence in this country.
You know, that's a great question. Being a sitting judge, I have to deal with issues like that a lot of times. For example, I'm a family court judge, and we deal with issues of domestic violence and the issue of arms and gun and possession of guns. So I think the only answer that you can give on something like that is making sure that whomever the gun owner is, that gun owner is educated on how to use it. We have to take a test to have a driver's license. We have to make sure that we do all the things to make us responsible drivers while we're on the road. I think the only answer is to make sure that the people in possession of guns are actually qualified to have those guns, that they are using them in a manner that if they are going to have to use this for self-defense and it's not for anything other than protection. I'm not one of those people that thinks that the Second Amendment is a bad amendment, because it's not. But at the same time, I think that whomever has a gun needs to use it responsibly and care responsibly, because it's not only for you, but it's for everyone else's protection as well. So I think the only way we can do that is by making sure that responsible people have those guns in their possession and they're able to use it responsibly.
Yeah, that's common sense gun laws. I mean, I don't know anybody who would disagree with that. I mean, that makes total sense to me, and that should be absolutely the case 100% of the time. You also decided on the University of Louisville for your undergraduate experience, and I know that you were courted by several other schools to play basketball. So why did you ultimately decide that Louisville was the right place for you?
Well, it was the perfect place for me. Being from Indianapolis, Louisville was about 2 hours away.
Hmm.
But it's also a challenge for me because they, at that time, were 2 years removed from a national championship. So knowing that you would have the opportunity to be at a university that was well respected academically and athletically, knowing it was 2 hours away from home, knowing that my parents could not get there every day, but at the same time, if I needed to get home, I could get back pretty quickly. It was attractive in that way. But also, some people told me that I couldn't play at the University of Louisville. Even though I was Indiana All-Star, honorable mention All-American, even though I had those accolades, some people told me that I couldn't play there. So when you tell a 17-year-old kid that has had those accolades and those honors bestowed upon him at that time, and have someone tell them that you cannot do something, it was my way of showing them, yes, I can. So I went there not only to prove other people wrong, but also challenge me, because I knew I was going to be playing with the best.
Yeah, you and I are alike in that way. If you want me to do something, tell me I can't, and then I'm going to prove you
Absolutely.
wrong because
Absolutely.
that's just how I am. I mean, you just walk around with that chip on your shoulder, and when people doubt you, that's when you give it everything you got
I
because
will tell you this,
you
Michael.
prove it wrong.
I'll tell you this. For the first couple of years, they were probably right. Because when I got there, I was a good athlete, a good basketball player. But when you go to a university like the University of Louisville, you're the best basketball player in your high school team, where you go to a team where every player on the team is their best high school basketball player. So
Mhm.
it was a transition for me to understand the position. I was moving from like a forward to a big guard. I hadn't played that in high school. Everyone was athletic, but I had a picture of every person that was in front of me in my locker, because I said, I'm going to start at some point. So I had to motivate myself by putting those pictures in my locker to say, okay, I'm coming for this guy today. And that was my motivation throughout my career, to make sure that I had something to strive for. And I wound up breaking the starting lineup my sophomore year, became the sixth man because of circumstances my junior and senior year, but everything worked out great, and I had a great and successful basketball career there.
I love it. I love it. And I heard this really funny story when you had to pay admission to get into a game at Louisville when you were playing that night. What
I
happened?
was playing well. I got first of all, I overslept. So I didn't ride the team bus over to the stadium. So I had to get in my car and drive, wait in line, got to the front, didn't have any money with me. So I got to the front of the line. And I said, "Look, I'm playing." The guy at the booth did not believe that I was a player. So I had to show, I said, I have the uniform. He's like, "You could have gotten this anywhere." So I literally had to say to the guy, "Look, I promise you I'm playing. If you let me in, I will bring money back, and I will also show you that I played in the basketball game." So I am probably the only player ever to actually have to go back and pay to get into a place where he actually played.
I mean, what in the world? You got to be kidding me. What a story. All right. So, what made you want to join Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated? Why that fraternity?
Well, my first experience with the fraternity was actually in a movie called School Days. I
Hmm.
remember watching the movie, being intrigued by the historically Black college to begin with, that experience to begin with, but seeing the step show And this group of men in black and gold come out and say, introducing the first of all Greeks, the brothers of distinction, the men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I was immediately sold at that point. I saw some other stuff, but that didn't mean anything to me. So when I got to campus, I got a chance to meet a lot of people, but I also saw Greek life at the campus of the University of Louisville for the first time. I saw who was who. I saw different fraternities and sororities, but I got involved with the Alphas because, first of all, my cousin had pledged Alpha. So I knew a little bit about it, but I got a chance to meet some of the student athletes that were involved, and I saw the balance that they had between their schoolwork, being a part of the organization, and their commitment to community service, which really intrigued me then because my parents had always talked about helping people that didn't have what you had and making sure that you could do something that would better the community and have something to say you were at the best, you were representing yourself based upon what you were doing for other people. So that organization, the Men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, my big brothers, all those people were kind of like mentors to me when I first got there. So when it was time for a line to open up, I actually went for it because I knew that it was something I wanted to do, but something that most people don't know. I pledged, and my college coach, Coach Crum, found out about it and told me I had to drop because he did not want any of his players online. So I had to drop my first time. So when the next line opened up, I snuck back in, unbeknownst to Coach Crum, went online for about 6 weeks and then crossed and was able to say that I crossed and without any kind of, my grades didn't fall. I was still able to perform well in the classroom and on the basketball court, and nothing was affected, but I was still able to do what I wanted to do in the first place. So it was a great experience.
I'm so happy that you crossed and you found a way to make it work. I mean, we do run into that a lot. A lot of coaches really do kind of feel that it's like somehow competing, et cetera. But I mean, you have a big network, you have a big support system, you have dedication to service. I mean, these are all good things, you know?
Right.
And so
I
to
think what
me,
happened was last time there was an athlete that pledged that was on the basketball team that didn't do well.
mm,
So he would kind of set the example in Coach Crum's mind of what could potentially happen. So I had to do it without him knowing
yeah.
and put
Now,
everything
listen,
back.
it wouldn't be the first time and it's not going to be the last. All right. So, also law school wasn't very easy for you at all. Talk
No.
about those setbacks in law school and how you were able to overcome them.
Well, law school was difficult for me in a couple different reasons. When I was in high school, when I was in college, you don't really, well, at least I didn't really learn how to study. For me, I could look at the material the night before, be able to memorize everything for the test and go and take the test and get an A and knock it out. No big deal. And law school is a little bit different. So you have to study from day one because everything's a building block to something else. And I didn't realize that until I actually took that final and I got this letter on December 29th, 1993. I'll never forget it. Basically saying that my services at the university were no longer needed because I can say that I got dismissed. But bottom line, I flunked out because I did not know how to study, didn't know what to do. I had a few other things personally that were going on in my life, but at the end of the day, I did not know how to study. So I had to kind of humble myself. I went through a small state of depression in the spring because I wasn't in school. Didn't want to go back to Indianapolis to let everyone know that I flunked out. So I stayed in Louisville almost under a rock. No one knew me. No one could find me. No, because I was staying out of the spotlight because I did not know anyone that I failed. But I had to have a little soul searching. I went to a couple of churches, talked to a couple of people, and got with my parents. And they said, if this is something you really want to do, you got to continue to try. So I gave myself some courage and I went to the admissions committee and I said that I wanted to get back in. So they had a committee meeting and I found out later that there were 7 people on the committee. 3 people said, yes, we want him to come back. We understand the circumstances. He understands what needs to happen. 3 people said no, which left one person only, who said, I'm going to vote that he comes back because he felt like I didn't need to be there in the first place. And if I came back, it would show and prove to everyone that I shouldn't have been there in the first place. Once I found out about that, I remember we talking about the pictures in the locker. that professor's picture stayed on my desk throughout my law school career because I never wanted to give up. If I got tired of studying, I would look at this picture and would give me the motivation to keep going. And I even have that picture around my office somewhere because he's always been my motivator, just to let me know that there's always going to be someone that thinks that you can't do it. Someone's always going to be saying that he's not capable. And I use that as my chip to always think I have to do harder. I have to jump higher, run faster, be smarter, do everything I can just to prove other people wrong because I constantly have people thinking that I shouldn't be here. So
Yeah.
that's my motivation.
I love that story. That's great. It reminds me of me trying to get into grad school. Now I'm in a doctorate program, but I mean, when I was first getting my master's degree, they had a committee meeting and they pulled up my transcript from undergrad days. And let's put it this way, I was not a stellar student because I was majoring in fraternity. Okay. I was running the organization, I was president, and that was number one for me. And clearly it worked out, when you look at things later, of course. But yeah, they looked at my transcript and they're like, "You have no place being here." I mean, like, this is not for you, And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Look at my body of work," and I showed them my career, in at work, and I said, "I'm going to do this," and I said, "I'm going to get a 4.0 in the master's program," and and you know what? I mean, they took a chance on me, even though they probably doubted that I was going to be able to do it, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Now I got a 4.0 in the doctorate program and I'm about to finish up my dissertation. So there you go. I mean, it's, sometimes you have that chip on your shoulder and somebody doesn't believe in you and you just use that as fuel. And,
Absolutely, absolutely. I keep it on there and it keeps you humble at the same time.
yeah, you need that. Absolutely. So the other thing too, I mean, you didn't have an easy road to becoming judge because you tried to be appointed as judge twice, and that didn't go as planned as either. So what happened there when you got appointed as
Three
judge?
times.
Three
I,
times?
three times. Well, here's the story. In Kentucky, you can become a judge one of two ways. You can either win an election or be appointed by the governor.
Mhm.
So the first time someone ever told me that they thought that I should be appointed was right around 2010 or so. I've been practicing for about close to 19 years at that point. And a sitting judge said that, when are you going to join us? And I had thought about that a long time ago. I know my parents had always wanted me to be the person that's over my shoulder right now, wanted me to be the Thurgood Marshall of our family. I've always had it in the back of my mind, but didn't think it was a reality until someone actually said something to me about it. So I put my name in the hat. And in Kentucky, it goes to a judicial nominating commission. And they take three names out of resumes and sends it on to the governor. Well, those three names came out. I was one of those three names a couple times. And every time it went to the governor, he would choose someone else. So I said, you know what? Forget this. I'm not going to do this at all. I'm going to take it to the people. People know me. I'm a former basketball player at the University of Louisville. They know my name. I decided I was going to run for an open seat. Well, I ran and I lost by a couple hundred votes. So I said, well, maybe this whole just thing isn't for me. And so I just decided I was going to just continue practicing. I'm licensed in Indiana, Kentucky, so I have those clients in those places. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to do that until a judge came to me and said, you know what, somebody's going to be retiring soon. You may want to put your name in. So I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and do it now. It had been several years had gone by. Um, I knew that I was qualified to do it, so I put my name in. Got to the top three, went to the governor. Governor chose someone else. And at that point, I said, you know what? I'm never going to do this again. I said, I'm never going to run for judge. I'm never going to submit my name in for an appointment. The only way I could ever be a judge is unless God appointed me, not the judge, not the governor. God appointed me, and I had to run to keep my seat. So fast forward a year later, I had the worst day ever in court. I was over across the river over in Indiana, looking back at Louisville, trying to make decisions. Do I actually still want to practice law? And I got a phone call, a personal phone call from a judge saying that, you know what, Derwin, I've been looking at you and watching you for years. I think that it's your time. And I want you to know that I am retiring and I want you to have my seat. I said, well, that sounds good, but you have to run that by the governor because he would have to make that appointment. I said, and plus, you're a family judge. I said, I like family law. I don't know if I want to be a family court judge, but to be honest with you, Judge, I don't want to do this. She said, no, you have to do this. I said, I don't want to do this. So she was trying to convince me to get into the seat. She said, do you have any old applications? I said, yes. She said, well, just do the same thing, write down the same answers, just put it in. What do you have to lose? I said, I'll tell you what, I'll get an old application. I'll white out the date and I'm just going to submit it back. I said, because I don't see any purpose in it.
Mm.
So fast forward a couple months, I give it there and get sent in. They have a new process this time with the new governor. So they asked me what I'm doing, why I want to be a judge, and I told them why. And for whatever reason, after those interviews, I get sent to Frankfurt, where the governor's office is.
Mhm.
And I'm one of the 3 people that go to Frankfurt, and they ask me a litany of questions. Who's my favorite Supreme Court justice? What is my judicial philosophy? Where do I stand on certain issues? And I gave them all the answers, but I gave them all real truthful answers, not answers that I thought would get me the job. I gave them truthful answers. And then they asked me the last question. If we don't appoint you, will you ever run for judge? And I said, no. I said, no. I said, I am doing fine the way I am right now. And I said, your decision is not going to define who I am. So whether you put a robe on me or not, it's not going to define me because no one can anymore. I said, I've learned who I am over this process. And you tell me who I am is going to be a lot different from me telling me who I am. So whether you, as I said, I appreciate the interview. Whether you put me in the seat or not, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue to fight for people that don't have voices. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from the governor asking me if I was ready and able to fill this seat. And I kind of coyly said, are you talking to Derwin Webb, not somebody else? Because I was sure, first of all, even though these are nonpartisan seats, he's a Republican governor, and I'm very much a Democrat.
Mm.
So just to get a phone call from him asking me to be in this position, let me know that this was something that I think was ordained by God, to be honest with you. And now I'm in the seat. I've been in the seat for going on 7 years now. And I love it. I tell people all the time, if I was independently wealthy, I would do this job for free because it gives me a chance to change people's lives and help them become better representations of themselves.
Oof, absolutely amazing. Absolutely incredible. I love that story. Now you're the first African American man to serve as judge in Louisville's
Yeah.
family court in the history of the Commonwealth. What is it like to do that job? And do you even think about what that means to other Black men, other Black women in your community?
I don't think about it because, to be honest with you, I think of myself as a very capable judge that just happens to be a person of color.
Mm.
That's how I see myself. I have a very high standard for myself. I want to make sure that my courtroom is run efficiently and that everyone is treated with dignity and respect, and that we give orders out, as fastly as possible and make sure that people's lives are changed. I know that I have the ability to do that, and I know that the decisions I make are not to be made lightly because I can change someone's life by the stroke of a pen, and that decision can not only affect that person, can affect their family and generations to come. So it's a heavy burden, but a burden that I enjoy. I don't really think about some of the things you talked about being the first African American until someone actually brings it up. It's very prevalent, especially during Black History Month. But I would tell you this: I know I have a huge responsibility. I know that when I go into a school and I talk to kids and I talk about citizenship, I talk about being a leader, I know that I am the first and only African American male that they're going to see with that robe on, as far as family court is concerned. And I know that I can be an example and a role model to other people. So I take that very, I don't take that very lightly. I understand the magnitude of my presence, and I understand the things that I say have meaning to people. So I appreciate it. I enjoy it. It's a responsibility that I don't run from, and I enjoy it very much every day.
Mm. You talked about citizenship there, and you had this idea called the Chronicles of the Traveling Book Bag Tour. You wanted to visit every elementary school within the Jefferson County public schools. Why was this project so important to you?
It's an ongoing project because I think that every kid needs to understand the value of reading. I think that our society has gotten to the point where we're so technology driven that people are just looking at their computer screens and playing video games and doing all those different things, but people don't understand the value of what a book can bring. I know that I'm an avid reader right now, and I know that whatever book I decide to read, I can go to that place. I can I can escape to. I'm reading a book right now by Kenny the Jet Smith, and he's talking about his experiences as a player and as a commentator. And so the stories that he tells and some of the people that he references, I know those people. So it's almost like I'm in the room. When you're reading, you can escape. You can be someplace else. You can be someone else based upon whatever you're reading. And I want all kids to have that kind of experience, to know that whatever they see on TV is just something that they just have to watch. Reading is very fundamental. It's part of the building blocks of society. Everyone needs to read. And I just want kids to know the value of reading, what it can do for you, what it can bring to your life, and those experiences. So I have kind of set out to go to every elementary school. I have book clubs that are being developed through a couple of different elementary schools, one the west end of town and one the east end of town. We read the same book and we come together through Google Teams and Zoom to have book clubs together, to bring kids together to talk about some of their experiences and be able to exchange ideas. So I think it's something that I've done for a while. I love it. Kids seem to like it. And as long as I'm in the seat, I'm going to continue doing it until God tells me I can't do it anymore.
Oof, God bless you. That's important work. Really, really great stuff. I love it. Now, I love good food, okay? And that's what I'm all about when I go and travel and hit up all these college campuses around the country. So, where should I be going for a great meal in Louisville?
Well, that's a great question because Louisville is a foodie town. It's a town for foodies. I would tell you that. Um, of course, you can go to any chain. But Louisville has a lot of independent restaurants that
Mhm.
I really enjoy. There's a place on Shelbyville Road run by my little sister, if you will. She's actually the daughter of one of my former assistant basketball coaches at the University of Louisville. It's called House of Marigolds. It's a great place. All the different kind of foods that you would like. They serve brunch. Go there as many times on Sundays as I can get over there too. So that's a great place to go to. There's another place called North of Bourbon, where we're in the bourbon capital of the world. Kentucky's the bourbon capital of the world. So everything's centered around bourbon around here. So there's a place called North of Bourbon, which is a combination of bourbon and a New Orleans style cooking. I love it there. Bring your wallet with you when you go there because you're going to want to keep eating. And a couple other places, but those are the two places. If someone said that I'm coming to Louisville, where should I go? Those are the two places I would mention right off the top of my head.
I like it. I like it a lot. That sounds really good. You're absolutely right. I'm a big fan of the bourbon. Now, I live in Tennessee, so I am a squire at the Jack Daniel's distillery, but I still like bourbon too. So, listen, I won't turn away either one. So that sounds really good to me. All right. So, if our listeners, if they want to bring you in to come and speak on their college campus, where should they go in order to connect with you?
Well, pretty active on my social media, so you can always reach me on my Facebook Messenger page. I'm Derwin L. Webb. My Instagram, The People's Judge. You can reach me at that, and also I'm on X or Twitter, The People's Judge on there as well. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, please do so. I would love to be able to come and talk about my story. I got a couple of things that are brewing right now. I have a children's book. I'm just waiting on the illustrator to finish out some of the things with that is a book of inspiration talking about perseverance, and also working on a little memoir that should be completed within the next couple of months that talks about my experiences growing up in a segregated community, going through desegregation. Even at this age, it seems like I should be a lot older talking about desegregation, but all deliberate speed didn't mean all deliberate speed coming to Indianapolis, as we talked about earlier. But just talking about my experiences and hoping to give people some inspiration after going through some of the things I went through.
I love it. I'm inspired. Absolutely incredible. Go and follow him on social media, the People's Judge, Judge Derwin L. Webb, Webb. Go and check him out on social media. Thank you so much, Judge, for being with us today. You've certainly
Oh,
inspired me, and I know you inspired our audience as well.
my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Michael.
All right, you got it. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this talk with Judge Webb, I want you to like it on social media. I want you to share it with other college students because he needs to come to your college campus. And I hope that you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.